Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Kevin McCarthy seems to have regrown his spine and crushes it on this Dana Bash interview when it comes to Texas and California's redistricting. Let's dive in.
Do you think that what Texas is doing is a mistake?
Look, Texas has a right to do what they're going to do,
but
and
what
the
do you
voters
think?
make a
You were
decision.
the highest Republican
I'm a big believer in citizens' commissions. I think that's a better way to go about doing it. But we have a 10th Amendment. Every state gets to determine their own way. Look, I didn't like it in the last cycle when New York went and redrew lines because they wanted to take more Republicans out. I didn't like what Pritzker did when he took away and had 83% of the vote, even though 40% is Republicans, when he gerrymandered all the Republicans out. I didn't like that, and I fought that. I didn't like last cycle when Louisiana gave up a Republican seat and Garrett Graves couldn't run again, and they drew a big, long gerrymander picking out who could vote for it. No, I fought all of those. I'm very consistent in this.
Can I just show, because I'm glad you brought that up. We just were looking around, and Princeton has a really good map of the states and how they've gerrymandered, if we can put this up. And it does show, to your point, if you look at California right now, yellow means it's one of the best because of the independent commission.
Yes.
But if you look
Illinois is an F, the worst.
Yeah, Illinois is in red. Red in this map, for everybody to understand, means it's the worst. It's terrible gerrymandering. But if you see there, for people who know their politics and know their maps, there are blue states and there are red states. This is a very real bipartisan issue.
Yes.
So just to put that on the table. Do you think there should be an independent commission in Texas?
I think the states get to decide. That's not my role.
Not your role, but you have an opinion.
But you have a 10th Amendment. I can't go in and tell the states what their speed limit should be either. But the one thing I had a role in when I was a California state legislator, this is where I stood and this is what I believe in. And I believe the California voter got to decide that. So this is what I believe. Let the voter decide. And if the voter changed the Constitution for it, you don't have a right to throw it out. And you know what they have now done to these cities and counties that don't have a say? They have gone in and out of cities and counties more than 100 different times, breaking them up. They make San Francisco tied to a city 4 hours away that they have nothing in common together.
You say that you were for a Citizens Commission back when you started. Of course, this was, and you're making this point, this was on the ballot twice in California.
Yeah, you know who fought it when it was on the ballot? Nancy Pelosi and Gavin. But they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to defeat it. And if you looked at your New York map, you know why the New York map is yellow? Because the courts defeated the legislature from drawing a map that wanted to be partisan.
Did
but
you
they
support
went back
it?
the Democrats.
Did you campaign for it in 2008 and 2011?
Yes, I did.
You campaigned for it?
Yes, for the initiative. But the Democrats opposed it. The Democrats are using this right now because they want to pick the voters instead of letting the voters decide.
Going back to Texas.
Yes.
They are doing exactly that. They are redrawing the lines.
Because that's what their Constitution allows them to do.
But it's because mid-decade, it's because that's what President Trump is asking them to do.
No,
Let's just listen to what President Trump said.
Texas would be the biggest one, and
so
that'll be fine.
Are you calling then for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
If that was a Democratic president starting this whole thing mid-decade, asking a Democratic-controlled legislature to redraw the maps and pick up 5 seats, you would understandably be hitting the roof.
Okay, I would understandably be going. California, Republicans vote 39%. They have 17% of the vote. They'll now be down to 6%. Democrats have 83%. You're very upset about Texas. You know what Republicans will have in Texas after they have 56% of the vote? About 72%. Do you know what the Democrats have in Illinois? They have more than 83% of the lines, and the Republicans are for. Yeah, but you haven't done one show on that.
That's not true. We do it all the time.
But Pritzker has. That's what Pritzker already did.
I just showed the map with all.
You showed the map then, but what did we do when Pritzker did about that? Each state has their right, and you know what? The Republicans in Illinois didn't run away from the state. You know what? In California, when they did that, we didn't run away. We competed. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, and I won the majority by 5 seats. And you know what? I won those 5 seats in California, which people believe it would be very difficult to do.
Yeah.
So I believe the voters should have the say. That's all this is about. And each state has their own constitution. California has a constitution, and we now have a governor that wants to change the constitution for his own political belief. We have a governor who spends more time on this instead of trying to encourage Bed Bath & Beyond to move back to California.
I can't believe it. Kevin McCarthy has regrown his spine. I guess having a little R&R and some time away from politics, he's been able to rework his brain chemistry to where he's a functional politician again. This dude used to be one of the weaker speakers of the House, and I understand that job is tough. That job is tough because you have to allow both sides to actually bring their bills forward. You are in charge of allowing bills to go to come out of the hopper and into the Rules Committee, and that's where everything gets decided of where it's going to go. So it's a tough job. And Paul Ryan, he was okay at it, but the reality is they didn't do enough to move conservative principles forward. They were just doing their best to hold their own. And I understand that, but come on. He could have had a whole lot more wins, but he won on every single point here. First off, Dana Bash, trying to make the argument that, oh, well, if a Democrat had said this, you'd be livid. Yeah, we'd naturally be livid. If a Democrat had done this, however, you'd be saying how much of a good thing this is. They're just going by the will of the people. This is a tit-for-tat argument. And so that's where the argument becomes something else entirely. We're not talking about who's in power. No. We're talking about what happens when we gerrymander. And I think that Kevin McCarthy has been watching my videos because those are the exact same numbers I've been talking about for the past week or so. Hey, real quick. Did you know thousands of Americans were jumping on the #1 precious metals offer in the country right now? And they're turning to my new partners, the #1 precious metals company, Goldco. If you've got over $50,000 in retirement savings, you might qualify for an exclusive offer from Goldco. We're talking about up to 10% back in bonus silver just for taking the opportunity to protect your savings. This isn't one of those sketchy free gold deals where they come with a whole bunch of strings attached. Nope. When they say get 10% back in bonus silver, they mean get 10% back. No gotchas, no fine print used to trick you, just your 10%. Plus the first-class customer service. Plus the great buyback program. There's a reason Goldco has won a bunch of awards. They are the real deal. So, go to PolitibralGold.com. You'll get a free 2025 gold and silver kit and learn more how to get your 10% while learning how to protect your savings. It's a win-win, but don't wait as supplies are limited. Go to PolitibralGold.com. That's PolitibralGold.com. And maybe, just maybe, we need to take a look at that very same map from Princeton that Dana was talking about. First off, that map, Dana, the ones in yellow are in that second category. It goes red from worst to best. Red, orange, yellow, green. Green means go, Dana. California is not in green. Okay? This is a real bless your heart kind of moment, but you should know better. It takes 2 seconds to look at this, and you even brought the map up. So yeah, California is in yellow because it doesn't have a great congressional grade. It only has a B grade. States like Missouri, they have an A grade. Indiana, A grade. Somehow, however, and this is where I know this map is full of it, Massachusetts is in green. Massachusetts has 40% Republican turnout. They have 0 representatives out of 9. Connecticut, also in green. 6 congressional districts, 40% Republican, 0. Okay? 0. You'd think there would be about 2, but no, there aren't. There should be 2 or 3 Republican districts in between those 2 states. There should be about 5 all told. Maryland, yellow grade. They have, I think, 8 congressional districts. They should have about 40% Republicans. So you think, well, let's be reasonable and say 2 at minimum. They have 1, and they directly gerrymandered 2 Republicans out in the last map drawing. And then you look at the southern states. This is where context is very, very key. In the 1965, when we passed the Voting Rights Act, there is a stipulation in that bill that says you need to give minorities more of a guaranteed voice in Congress. So when you're looking at this map, you'll notice that the southern districts, the southern states, are almost all in red. Part of it, I'm going to use Mississippi as a chance. Mississippi doesn't have any real big cities. Jackson is a smaller state capital. Vicksburg is not a big city. They just don't have too many big towns. It is tough to properly district in that area, in part due to its odd geography. In Arkansas, same problem. It's got an even odder geography. But you see in all these southern states, they're all in red. Why are they in red? Well, they have a larger number of minority voters along the fall line, along the Mississippi River, and of course in the bigger southern cities. Now, I have to admit, I'm going to be as honest with you as I can. North Carolina is probably the worst gerrymandered state when it comes to southern politics. But the reality is, when the Republicans gerrymander their districts, and we do that because of the Voting Rights Act. We give guaranteed preference to Democrat voters and minority voters in these southern states. It is almost impossible to do that, however, in the rural states like Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming. It's impossible to give Democrats their own fair shake in those states because, well, there's just not enough of them. So you can push those states out the window. Same with Rhode Island, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. It's just that tough. But the reality is, folks, places like New York, California, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, these states all have terrible records, and the way that this Princeton map works, it makes absolutely no sense. We know these places gerrymander their states. We know that they completely take out the voices of Republicans, and that's what happens when Democrats gerrymander. Now they're trying to do this again in California. They're trying to take the 9 Republican districts, which it should be closer to 17 if you're going by number. Of course, this is an independent commission we're talking about here. They want to go over their independent commission, basically remove it entirely, and reduce Republican districts from 9 to 4. And then when you look at the map of the way it's done, it is a terribly drawn map. And I don't just mean that from a political standpoint. I mean that when you have certain representatives, particularly in a state like California, where you've got a borderline rainforest in its northern section, you've got multiple mountain ranges, you've got three big ones and a couple of smaller ones in the south. You've got a huge central valley that's perfect for agriculture. You've got to take into account the oil in the Bakersfield area. You've got to take into account the Death Valley deserts. You've got to take all these different biomes into account, which means you're also taking care of natural resources. That's why these districts are drawn the way they are, so you can properly represent not only people, but the land and the economy that these people will work upon. All right, that is a basic idea here, and the California Democrats are trying to circumvent the entire process all out of spite. They do not care about proper districting, which, by the way, Texas, they're trying to district now in a way that actually reflects the geography. The map before was even crazier and gave even more preferential treatment to Democrats. There was one section that reached from San Antonio all the way up to Austin, with a thin strip along the interstate about a couple miles wide. It was one of the dumbest gerrymandered areas in all the country, and Texas just said, enough with this nonsense. We are going to go back to the spirit of what districting is actually supposed to look like. Please let me know what you think about this whole topic down below, because this is a wild one. But Kevin McCarthy seems like he's found his spine again. Good for him, and poor Dana Bash. CNN, you got to get someone who actually knows how to read a map. That was just a sad performance. But folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.